Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing well. Doing
Good.
well. All right. Well, we'll go ahead and get started.
All right.
All right. Here we go. All right. So let's start off with some common words. Here we go. Ready? Are, or, been, your, over, want, I, them, didn't, time, down, ask, now, an, by, think, see, hand, it's, say, how, ground, head, did, well, before, off, who, more, even, turn, come, smile, way, really, can, face, other, some, right, there, only, walk, make, got, try, something, again, room, thing, after, still, thought, door, here, to, little, because, why, away. All right. Let's do some common phrases. Let's see here. Okay, yeah, here we go. As well as we understand, as you were, as far as long as much as soon as much as, or I'm sorry, in as much as, in so far as, such as, at all times, at a time, at least, at no time, at once, at that particular time, at that time, at the present time, at the same time, at the time, at this particular time, at this time, call your attention, can be, can he be, can I be, could be, I can't be, is to be, it would be, might be, must be, shall be, should be, this is, this be, to be, will be, would be, bear in mind, because of the, can have been, could have been, had been, has been, have been, have you been, have you ever been? All right. Let's go ahead and do some names and addresses. Here we go. Howard County Library, Coral Springs Branch, 10078, Northwest 29th Street, Coral Springs, Florida, 33065. Amy M. Clark, CLARK, 3801 Ivanhoe Drive, Lorain, Ohio, 44053. Mr. Lewis Shepard Jr., SHEPARD, 726 and a half North Street, Logansport, Indiana, 46947. Jill M. Torrance, TORRANCE, 5223 Cobblestone Lane, Loves Park, Illinois, 61210. Marilyn C. Gonzalez, GONZALEZ, 509 Fifth Avenue, Brooklyn, New York, 11220. Mr. Thomas B. Leithner, LITHNER, 1849 Abeldale Lane, Sandy, Utah, 84092. Miss Anita I. Ferris, FARRIS, Route 1, Box 356, Palmyra, Virginia, 22963. Mr. Matthew A. Tucker, TUCKER, 2839 Mechanicsville Road, Bensalem, Pennsylvania, 19020. Katrina A. Huntsberry, HUNTSBERRY, 111 South Lanier Street, Abbeville, Louisiana, 70510. All right. Now I've got some consonant compounds. This focuses on initial SL. All right, here we go. The slim, slight, and slender girl ate coleslaw. There was a slight slant to the slipshod job. If you drink slow again, or let me say that again, if you drink slow gin, don't use a slingshot on your sloop. People with slogans aren't slow or slouchy. He was sliding down the slope looking for a slice of pie. She looked slender and slinky and not at all sloppy. He owned a sloop named Slumber Sleuth. The sleuth was slim and slipped through the sliding glass doors. Sleigh rides are fun if the sleet is slippery. Cut a slice or a sliver of sloppy Joe. Slow down slowly or slam into the wall. The slab was slack and on a slight slant. Slit-eyed, sly people use slingshots. Slippers slip on slippery, slimy floors. Slate blue sleds with slats slide. A slatter like slabs of slippery soap. Slow-paced slow pokes love slow ovens. Slash the slate on a low slant. The slovenly sloth slunk slyly and slowly away. The slide trombone made slithery, sleepy sounds. It's funny because I like to go through and highlight all of the initial consonants that we're focusing on just so they stand out. And I bought it like a brand new purple highlighter, but it's so dark that it's hard for me to see the words. So I kind of want it to lose some of its color a little bit so I can see better. All right. I'm going to give you some locations and radio stations. So with our initial, we're using our initials, okay? Here we go. Hillsdale, Michigan, WCSR. Fort Morgan, Colorado, KFTM. Lincoln, Maine, WLKN. Monmouth, Illinois, WRAM. Montrose, Colorado, KWDE. Crystal River, Florida, WRYO. All right, now a common brief review. You're going to hear doctor, effect, immediate, individual, March, and April. Here are your sentences. March has 31 days. The remedy was effective. You should see your doctor immediately. It is a matter of individual choice. The effect is immediate. Doctors must consider the individual. What will the effect be? We are having April showers. Class starts in April. Dr. Jones saw him in March. I have seen 3 doctors, but nothing seems to be effective. I am going to see Dr. Hoswell in April. Report to the office immediately. Taxes are due April 15. Have you seen a doctor about your foot? That ACE bandage will not be effective. The program is individualized. The doctors don't always agree. You should be home by March 10. The effective date will be April 26. What effect will a March 12 date have on the individual files? The immediate problem is the filing date of April 15. He is an individualist. Answer his letter of March 18 immediately. All right. Now I've got some derivatives. Here we go. Purchasing, advertised, satisfied, advertisement, advisory, ordering, furnishing, orders, knowledgeable, credited, correspondent, purchased, suggested, furnished, ordered, satisfies, acknowledges, advertises, satisfactory, businesses, advises, regularly, acknowledging, suggesting, acknowledged or acknowledged, suggests, credits, usually, advertising, crediting, advised, advising, accounting, furnishes, purchases, corresponding. All right, now here are some sentences that have the final FL, final LS. Okay, here we go. I am so thankful that you were able to visit. It is really not hopeless. You need to be careful. She is just a graceful dancer. Is your leg painful? That is just wishful thinking. He was not jobless for long. He is fearless when he has that big dog with him. The priceless gem was stolen. Robert has a powerful swing. It is worthless land. I felt so helpless. We spent a few peaceful hours by the stream. John was far too careless. The house is not worth less than before the flood. Mr. Smith is ruthless. All right. Now, I've got some sentences here that have the final TH, so we're going to use our GT for TH. Here we go. Their mirth made us all laugh. With that girth, a larger size is needed. Take a deep breath before you meet the wrath of your father. The tooth fairy left a quarter. Did you have an upper berth on your trip north? That was the last wisdom tooth in his mouth. I would rather have the booth on the south. Chicken broth is the best remedy. The myth says he sprang forth fully grown at birth. That story of the creation of the earth was a myth. Beth showed a lot of faith. The moth ate a hole in the cloth. They both took the oath to tell the truth. The cape was made of feathers. The wallet was made of genuine leather. My father put a Christmas wreath on the door. He took an oath with no hesitation. Bill runs a lathe on the night shift. Are you good at math? I would rather use lath and plaster. Take a bath. His death was a shock. His false teeth don't fit properly. The path is steep. You must have faith in yourself. All right. Now I've got some types of doctors. Okay, different types of doctors. Here we go. Addiction medicine physician, adolescent medicine physician, aerospace medicine physician, allergist, anesthesiologist, cardiac surgeon, cardiologist, cardiovascular disease physician, child neurologist, child psychiatrist, critical care physician, dermatologist, emergency medicine physician, endocrinologist, family practice physician, general practice physician, general surgeon, genetic specialist physician, geriatric medicine physician, gynecologist, hand surgeon, head and neck surgeon, hematologist, oncologist, hepatologist, infectious disease physician, internal medicine physician, interventional pain management physician, interventional radiologist, medical oncologist, nephrologist, neurologist, neuropsychiatrist, neuroradiologist, neurosurgeon. And there's more, but we'll stop there. Do the rest this evening. All right. Now, let's see here. Yeah, let's do these. All right, so I've got some medical doublets. Here we go. Ready? Adhesive tape, treatment table, triangle bandage, betadine swab, alcohol prep, waterproof tape, poison antidote, sponge count, Penrose drain, sterile gauze, cervical traction, bluish tinge, sodium chloride, bedside rails, isolation gown, ankle support, inflatable splint, tongue depressor, latex gloves, medicine cups, butterfly closure, patellar reflex, whirlpool bath, subjective symptom, irrigation tray, oblique incision, ammonia inhalant, plastic drape, sodium chloride, Call's fracture, infrared lamp, finger splint, hand restraints, extensive hemorrhage, costal cartilage, urine specimen, vein retractors, Kelly forceps, general anesthetic, frozen section, Foley catheters, neurological testing, suture scissors, ACE bandage, mosquito forceps. All right. We're going to do one more drill, and then we'll move into our literary. Here we go. This is going to be the of, have, very drill, okay? I'm going to give you phrases before the sentences. Very few of cotton have stayed, very likely, have run, of us, have quit, of our, very well, of silver, have joined, very smart, of many, have left, very good, of metal, have sung, very deep. And here are your sentences. Have we a lot of time? All of them have fled. Have it made of gold. We all have to go. Who will have time? Why have they gone? He is very truthful. It is very possible. I like it very much. Very few have enough. Have we enough of them? I don't know of very many. I now have enough. I haven't had time. I still have several. It is a very long time. Very few know how. Bill is very bright. Have them made very slim. Use very little salt. They have tried very hard. Have they sold very many? The bell was very loud. Very few finished. Why have you come? Have you heard of it? Have you gone before? She did very well. Some of them have prayed. He has to have more. I very likely have one. Very few can stand it. Haven't you read that? Have all of you eaten? Very few have completed. He is very pleasant. I only have a minute. Have you read very much? The sea is very deep. Have a very good time. I have very fair skin. He is very, very tall. They have all voted. Very few have failed. Rest is very necessary. All right, we're going to go ahead and move into a literary. I'm going to give you a narrative answer. So I'm going to read this once at 120, again at 140, and the last take will be at 160. Actually, you know what? I'm going to move that backwards. I'm going to do 160, 140, 120. Okay. All right, here we go. Ready? I am basing most of my arson report on the remaining material. The roof was completely burned in this area. The rafters of the ceiling remained, and I used the burn patterns in finding the point of origin. The heaviest burn patterns will be close to the area where the fire started. Then the burn pattern will diminish as it goes out from there. By the time I got there, the ceiling had a hole cut in it where the fire department had gone in and removed part of the roof. All right, so let's do that again at 140. I am basing most of my arson report on the remaining material. The roof was completely burned in this area. The rafters of the ceiling remained, and I used the burn patterns in finding the point of origin. The heaviest burn patterns will be close to the area where the fire started. Then the burn pattern will diminish as it goes out from there. By the time I got there, the ceiling had a hole cut in it where the fire department had gone in and removed part of the roof. All right, let's do one last take at 120. I am basing most of my arson report on the remaining material. The roof was completely burned in this area. The rafters of the ceiling remained, and I used the burn patterns in finding the point of origin. The heaviest burn patterns will be close to the area where the fire started. Then the burn pattern will diminish as it goes out from there. By the time I got there, the ceiling had a hole cut in it where the fire department had gone in and removed part of the roof. All right. Now I'm going to read you an article on air pollution. And I will read this at 1:40. Kind of do middle of the road here. Okay. All right, so let me give you a word list. You're going to hear residential, industrial, pollution, smoke, deterioration, molds, pollens, radioactive, bacteria, atmosphere, volcanic, gas, storms, smog, eruption, nuclear, civilization, contaminated, coined, minute, fires, atomic. All right, let's go ahead and read this at 1:40. The air we breathe is filled with millions of particles of foreign substances referred to as pollution. These substances are so minute that we don't even know we are breathing them. Smoke and gas are contributed to the air through fires, residential, industrial, and forest. Gas is also created by the deterioration of plant and animal remains. Nature itself is a large contributor to pollution. Sandstorms, dust storms, and volcanic eruptions introduce elements in the air that cause pollution. Pollens, mold, and bacteria are shed from plant life, and the wind lifts them into the atmosphere. Human beings, through the industrial process, have added factories and vehicles to our civilization, which emit smoke, gas, and chemicals. The word smog was coined by joining the words smoke and fog to describe the addition of solid particles in the air. In recent years, people have contaminated the air even further through radioactive fallout from the atomic bomb. The greatest threat now to air pollution is the waste created from nuclear power plants and nuclear bombs if it should escape into the atmosphere. All right, we're going to do another take on one more literary. Okay, this is on problems shared by businesses, part 1. And I'm going to read this one at 160. Okay, I read the last one at 140. So you're going to hear universal, financing, issuance, institution, administration, forfeited, facilities, competition, capital, research, establishing, merger, varied, small business administration, credit rating. That's about it. All right, so let's go ahead and read this at, we'll do this at 160. Here we go. Most of the problems that exist in large businesses also exist in smaller businesses, but to a different extent. All businesses are faced with universal problems, which include financing, management, competition, and research. Whether large or small, businesses all have a need for capital to get started and to expand. Sources of capital are widely varied and can range from a friend or relative to a large financial institution. Establishing a credit rating is another difficult process. Small business owners frequently borrow from friends or relatives, savings, or the Small Business Administration for loans. Accepting a partner or partners is another way of obtaining capital, although some degree of control in the operation is usually forfeited at this time. Larger businesses may acquire additional capital through the issuance of stock, mergers, sale of existing facilities, and loans from banking institutions. All right. Yeah, I'm going to read just a little bit from our OJ. I know I'm reading it to mid and high, but I figure it's so interesting. I'm sure you guys don't mind hearing it twice. We're almost at the same point with each other. So, all right, here we go. All right. Let's see. Okay. What happened back there, Charlie? I said really quick. I'm going to read this at 160, okay? Charlie sat up. His cheeks were wet with tears. He shook his head from side to side and shrugged. I thought back to that horrific scene at the courtyard and to all the blood. I had never seen so much blood in my life. It didn't seem possible. It didn't seem real. Charlie? He still didn't answer. But what the hell? This really wasn't happening. That hadn't been me back there. I'd imagined the whole thing. I was imagining it then. In actual fact, I was home in bed asleep, having one of those crazy crime of passion dreams. But I was going to wake up any second now. Yeah, that was it. Only I didn't wake up. We were still on Sunset, and I passed the light on Burlingame and made a sharp right onto Rockingham, tearing up the winding hill toward the house. As I approached the gate, I saw a limo moving toward the Rockingham gate from Ashford Street and remembered that I had a flight to catch. I drove past my house and past the moving limo, and in the side view mirror, I saw its taillights flare as it pulled to a stop in front of my gate. The driver had probably been waiting on Ashford out of sight, and I wondered if he'd already called the house. I had no idea what time it was. I looked down at the Broncos clock and saw it was 10:37. Fuck. I was supposed to be in that limo in 8 minutes. I pulled into Ashford and kept going, hanging a right on Bristol, and I parked in the shadows behind the home of Eric Watts. There was another neighbor on Rockingham who was closer, but his property ran parallel to mine, and I couldn't get inside without running the risk of being spotted by the limo driver. I was going to have to steal onto my property through the Watts place, and I knew just how to do it. I looked down at my lap and at the bloody bundle, then over at Charlie. You are going to have to help me out here, man, I said. Charlie turned to look at me. His mouth was hanging open a bit, and he was breathing kind of funny, and he couldn't stop shaking his head. It looked like he was slipping into shock or something. Charlie, are you listening to me? He stopped shaking his head for a moment and nodded once, and I began to tell him what I needed from him. I've got to get into my house, I said. You're going to have to wait here until I'm in the limo, understand? When the limo is gone, Charlie looked away into the darkness beyond his own window, clearly not listening to me. I reached over and slammed his left shoulder into his seat, hard, and he whipped around to face me, more frightened than ever. I need you to fucking listen to me, man, I shouted. Are you listening to me? Charlie nodded. He looked scared to death. Say it. Tell me you're listening. I'm listening, he mumbled. Let me spell it out for you. And you better fucking pay attention. Are you paying attention? Charlie nodded. Say it. I'm paying attention, Charlie said. I'm going to sneak back into my house. I'm going to take a shower and get dressed and grab my bags. And I'm going to get into that goddamn limo we just passed. Did you see that limo? No, Charlie said. Well, there's a limo parked in front of the Rockingham gate, and I'm supposed to be in it, on my way to the airport. A limo, Charlie repeated. His mouth was still hanging open, and I wasn't sure any of this was really registering, but I didn't have a choice. Once I'm in that limo, and it's gone, I need you to park the fucking Bronco in the driveway, then get into your car and take off. Do you understand? Charlie nodded. This here is the clicker. It will open the gate. You can drop the key in the mailbox, but run out before the gate closes, okay? Okay, he said. I took the key out of the ignition and removed all of the keys except the one for the Bronco. Then I set the bundle in his lap. I need you to take this and get rid of it, I said. Charlie looked down at the bundle, afraid to touch it. I don't give a fuck how you get rid of it, but make sure it disappears. You hear? It needs to disappear forever. Charlie nodded. Did you fucking hear me? I hollered. I heard you, Charlie said. I made him repeat everything I had told him, word for word. Then I got out of the car and stole into the neighbor's property, into my house. My heart was beating like crazy. I could feel it pounding in my ears. I moved past the tennis court to the little secret path that connected our two properties. Only a few friends knew about that path, and all of them were tennis players. They made us use it, they made use of it whenever I wasn't around to open the front gate for them. Within seconds, I was on my property, moving past my own tennis court. I hung a left, moving past the guest houses, all of which are tucked away out of sight, and past the pool toward the rear of the main house. I couldn't see the limo from way back there, but I knew it was on the Rockingham side. I was sure that the driver had already buzzed the house by then, and I was pretty sure he'd already called his office to tell them I wasn't there. Still, he was a few minutes early, and he'd hang tight. He'd buzz again in a few minutes. For all I knew, he was buzzing at that very moment. Okay, so we'll stop there. Okay. Let's do some jury charge. I'll read this at 160, okay? You're going to hear manslaughter, nationality, vile, Rachel, suffice, quarreling, beyond all reasonable doubt, deceased, jibes, state prison, and this is on, the subject is murder, okay? Here we go. Let me just state this. All right. There is no duty upon the court to commit or comment upon the evidence at all. All the court has to do is render a verdict of guilty or not guilty, where people waive a jury and submit the matter to the court. I usually give to counsel and those people interested in the case, the court's reasoning, how the evidence appears to the court. As I say, I am not going to attempt to comment on all of the evidence. There is no duty on the court to comment on it at all. Suffice it to say that if this defendant's story is to be believed, he is not guilty of murder or even manslaughter. If his story is to be believed, he did not even cut the man. The man stabbed himself or got cut in the scuffle, if he is to be believed. I do not mind saying to you that it is hard to believe his story. His story is quite unbelievable. It does not ring true that this man can go into a bar 2 or 3 times and there be no objection by reason of his nationality. But on this particular occasion, the last time, the deceased comes up to him and calls him a vile name and starts to struggle with him with a knife. Now, counsel, things just do not happen that way. If that was all the evidence in the case, why, I would have to find the defendant not guilty, but I cannot believe his story. Now, on behalf of the state, one witness, the girl in the case, Rachel, was not very helpful, but it does appear that this defendant lived with this girl for over a year and that only a week or 2 previously she had left him. All right? So he contacts her there in this bar, according to her story. And according to her story, the defendant wanted to buy her a drink, and she refused. So indefinite through her testimony it does show that there was some friction between the defendant and this Rachel. Now, on behalf of the other witness for the state, Mrs. Carter, she told a very clear and convincing story, which jibes with all of the facts in the case. She said that this defendant came there early in the afternoon and was quarreling and having trouble with Rachel. The deceased tried to get him to stop and finally put him out of the place sometime during the afternoon. Later, the defendant came back after having the trouble in the afternoon and again had some contact with the girl, Rachel. When the deceased tried to get him to sit down at a table and behave himself or leave, he pulled out a knife. It appears very much to the court as if this defendant knew that he was going to have trouble there. He came back looking for trouble. In any event, if the fight started as he says it started, he certainly used more force than was necessary to defend himself. I will have to find this defendant guilty. I do not believe his story at all. I think the state has proved beyond all reasonable doubt that this defendant stabbed the deceased and brought about his death. The defendant says he did not mean to kill him. He did not mean to kill him, but he did mean to do him severe bodily harm, and death resulted from the injuries received by the deceased from this defendant. I will find the defendant guilty of manslaughter and sentence him to 10 years in the state prison. Counsel, I wish you would go out with him and explain to him. Just go out with him and explain to him what I said. I want him to understand. All right. I'm going to go ahead and start our Q&A. I'm going to start this one at 120, but I'm going to work my way to 140. Okay. All right, so you're going to hear Nick Stewart, Ohio Chargers, Caliber, Administration, Confrontations, Perfectionist, Revolver, Magnum, Threatened, Sloppy, Careless, Community, Golf, Cleveland, Coaching, Competitive, Moody, Contemplated, Primarily. All right, so we're going to start with plaintiff, and defense and court does jump in. Okay, so we'll start this at 140, and I'll move my way to, 120, move my way to 140. Here we go. How long did you know Mr. Stewart? Since 2005. That would be about 15 years. Did you meet him through coaching at Cleveland Community College? Yes, I did. Did you know him on a social basis as well as a working basis? Yes, I did. Did you consider yourself a close personal friend of Nick Stewart's? Yes, I did. What kind of person would you say that Nick was? He was quiet, competitive, and very moody. Did he complain more than most people? Yes, he did. About what? Primarily the relationship with his students. How often would he complain about his relationship with his students? Would it be consistent or constant or once in a while? Once in a while, occasionally. What was the nature of his complaints, if you can recall? Nick was a former running back with the San Diego Chargers. He was a good football player. Then he went to play for Ohio. He was a perfectionist. If the students were sloppy or careless in their work, it bothered him. He would have confrontations with them about their problems and become quite upset. Okay, do you have any opinion as to how often he confronted students because of their sloppiness and carelessness? No, but it seemed to be a constant thing. In the 15 years or so that he was an instructor and coach, can you give an estimate as to how many times he complained to you that he was extremely upset with one of the students? On the average, I would say 2 or 3 times a month. He would complain about 2 or 3 times a month about the students? Yes. Why would he mention that to you? Just to vent his anger, I guess. I think, as I told you, I talked to Nick primarily on a daily basis. And when we would talk, these things would come up as a matter of normal conversation. Did you ever hear him complain about the operations of the college itself? Like, for instance, he didn't have enough equipment available or learning materials or something like that? I am just asking. I would say yes, on occasion. I would have been surprised if everything ran perfectly. It would have been out of the ordinary, no different than any other college. Right. Was the administration pleased with his performance? As far as I know, they were. You also said you knew him socially. Did you ever play golf with him? Yes, sir. How often did you play golf with Nick? Every Saturday. Did you know that one of Nick's hobbies was collecting guns? Yes, I did. Were you aware that Nick owned a .22 caliber rifle, a .45 caliber revolver, a .357 caliber Magnum, and a .38 caliber special revolver? Yes, I knew that. Were you aware that Nick kept a small handgun in his office desk on campus? No, I was not. Did you ever hear Nick threaten a student with physical harm? No, never. Did Nick ever tell you that he had contemplated taking his own life? He only mentioned it to me once. Do you remember when that was? Yes, it was several years ago after the death of his wife in an automobile accident. Was he extremely depressed at that time? Yes, he felt that his life was over. Okay, switch transcripts. And I will read this at 160. This is going to be, let's see. Yeah, we're going to start with defense. Deputy, isn't it possible that the suspected meth in the coffee filter could have been obtained elsewhere other than at the residence where you located it? I don't know where it was obtained from originally, but when I arrived, it was there at the house. Right, but it could have, it's possible in your experience that the suspected meth that was in the coffee filter could have been brought from another location, right? Yes, that's correct. Okay, then when did you also see Ms. Patterson that day? Yes. Was she outside with Mr. Myers? I believe so, yes. Is that when you first saw her? I believe so. Thank you, nothing further. Mr. Mason, anything further? Yes, just a couple of questions. Did the Oxnard Crime Lab also send out a criminal list? Yes. Is that Mr. John Masters, at least one of them? Yes. Did he arrive before or after you? A long time after me. A long time after you? Yes. When you say a long time, how long? At least 2 hours or more. Okay, now Ms. Saunders asked you a question about being obtained elsewhere. As it's drying, is it still processing? Yes, because it's in a liquid state. They are trying to crystallize it up or clean it. Thank you, nothing further. Mr. Waltz, so are you saying the methamphetamine was in a liquid state when it was in the coffee filter? It was damp, so it was wet. But right, but it was in a crystalline state, but it was damp, correct? Yes, that is correct. It was not in a liquid state inside of the coffee filter, is that correct? Yes. Thank you. Nothing further. Ms. Saunders? Nothing, Your Honor. Mr. Mason? Nothing, Your Honor. May this witness be excused? Yes, Your Honor. Yes, Your Honor. Thank you, Deputy. You may be excused. You may step down. You may call your next witness, counsel. People call Deputy Salmon. Do you solemnly state that the evidence you shall state in this matter shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God. I do. Please state your full name for the record, spelling your first and last name. My name is David Salmon, S-A-L-M-O-N. Thank you. You may inquire, counsel. Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Deputy. Good morning. What is your occupation? I'm a detective with the Oxnard Sheriff's Department. How long have you been a sworn peace officer in the state of California? A little over 9 years now. What is your current assignment? I'm a detective with the Narcotics Division assigned to their Region 2 Street Enforcement Team. Could you briefly describe your background, training, and experience relating to narcotics investigations? And in your case, I'd like you to speak of possession for sales of methamphetamine and also just basic marijuana. Okay, the training in the basic academy, which covered possession, transportation, sales of narcotics, also marijuana, and the cultivation of it. Other experiences, just working patrol in the jail setting. I'd say involvement in 300 to 400 different cases involving subjects with or either under the influence and possession of, possession for sales, or cultivation of methamphetamine and or marijuana. Pertaining to possession of sales of methamphetamine, I would estimate I've had experiences with 40 to 50 cases regarding that. Okay, now specifically with marijuana itself, how many times have you come into contact with marijuana? Several hundred. Does it have a distinctive smell? Yes. Texture? Yes, it does. Thank you. Now, the search warrant that was previously testified to on September 10 on Charter Road, were you in charge of that particular case? Yes, I was the case agent for it. So we heard prior testimony about a search warrant. When you arrived, how many deputies were there? I can't say exactly, but I would say 7 or 8 of us. Now, immediately upon arrival, did you contact anybody? Yes, I did. How many subjects? 2. Where did you contact them? In what would probably be best referred to as the front yard of the residence. Now, the male or female? Yes, male and a female. So 1 male and 1 female? Correct. Do you see the male in the courtroom today? Yes, I do. Could you please point out where he's seated and describe what he's wearing? The gentleman seated behind defense counsel wearing orange. May the record reflect that the witness has identified defendant Myers? The record will so reflect. Now, excuse me, you said there was a female also out in front? Yes. Do you see her in the courtroom today? Yes, I do. Could you please point out where she's seated and describe what she's wearing? She's seated to my left of the male behind defense counsel wearing the orange. Let the record reflect the witness identified defendant Patterson. Yes, the record will so reflect. Did you detain them outside? Correct. Did you observe or find anything in the general area where they were that was unusual? Yes, near the female subject, we located a methamphetamine pipe that she had dropped prior to or as we were arriving. And we will get into her statement in a little bit. As they were secured, did you then make entry into the house? Yes. Did you contact anybody else inside the house? Yes, we did. How many people? 1. Male or female? It was a male. And do you know how old that person was? He was the male defendant's son, 14 or 15. I don't recall exactly. He was a juvenile? Yes. And was that person's name Mason Meyer or Myers? Yes. Okay, did he tell you who his father was? Yes. Who was that? The male defendant here, Mr. Myers. Did he say who lived there? Yes, he told me him and his father. Okay, anybody else that he mentioned? I don't recall specifically, but he lived at that house? Correct. I'm going to assume you weren't the only person searching the residence. Correct. But anything that was found, would somebody come and point out what they found? Yes. Okay, now specifically to your search, what area did you search? Well, I don't recall if I searched a particular area. Usually a case agent will assign people to different areas, and I'm kind of the case agent overseeing things. I may have assisted here or there, but I don't recall me personally searching a specific area. Now, earlier, Deputy Ramos testified to the bag of somewhat moist, damp, specific methamphetamine. Correct. What room was that found in? The front room of the residence where we made entry. Were you present when that was found or pointed out to you later? I think I was nearby, but it was pointed out to me by Deputy Ramos. Yes. In that particular room, what else was found? There was a few marijuana plants that were growing in the closet adjacent to the wall where that particular suspected methamphetamine was located was a cabinet. Inside that cabinet was another baggie which contained suspected methamphetamine along with several chemicals including acetone. Did you find any marijuana itself? Yes, on the wall where the suspected methamphetamine and the coffee filter was located, we located 2 separate baggies of marijuana. Did you find any paperwork pertaining to any subjects? Yes, we found some paperwork in that room with Tom Meyer's name on it. Find any scales? We found 1 digital scale in that room. A money counter? Yes, we found a digital money counter. Any walkie-talkies or scanners? Yes, it looks like we found 1 police scanner in there. In the same room? Yes. Now, based on the items that were consistent with a methamphetamine lab, was anybody called out? Yes, they were. Who was that? Initially, Detective Hogan. And then did the crime lab also come out? Yes. Can you estimate the amount of time from the point that Deputy Ramos found that 1 bag of the moist item and when Detective Hogan arrived? Well, I would estimate from when he found that to when Detective Hogan arrived, maybe an hour to 2 hours. And then how much later was it before the crime lab? And specifically, I'm talking about John Masters arrived in relation to Detective Hogan. Okay, I would say the crime or John Masters arrived about 2 hours after Detective Hogan. So 3.5 to 4 hours from the time Deputy Ramos found that's the best I recall. Again, my estimation. Now, as part of your investigation, did you interview Detective Patterson? Yes, I did. Did you read her? I'm sorry, let me say that again. Now, as part of your investigation, did you interview Defendant Patterson? Yes, I did. Did you read her Miranda rights? Yes, I did. Did that include a right to an attorney? Yes. Did that include a right to remain silent? Yes. Did she indicate she understood those rights? Yes. Did she indicate she was willing to speak to you? Yes. What, if anything, did she tell you about the meth pipe you found outside? She admitted when she saw us arriving at the residence, she tossed it on the ground. Did you ask her what you would find inside of the house? Yes, I did. What, if anything, did she say? She said there may be additional pipes and possibly the methamphetamine she smoked earlier. Did she say how much methamphetamine? I don't recall specifically. Now, in your preparation of your testimony today, did you contact the Oxnard Crime Lab? Yes, I did. Did you speak to John Masters? Yes, I did. Did he tell you what his title was? Yes. What was that? He's a criminalist too. Did he tell you what his educational background was? Yes. He has a BS from USC in chemistry. Okay, did he tell you what his formal training was? Yes, he has 6 months in a training lab, and I believe could I refer to my report? If that would refresh your recollection, yes, it would. With the court's permission, yes, you may, go ahead. He has 6 months in-house training in controlled substances and also 6 months in methamphetamine lab training. How long on the job experience? About 9 years. Did he tell you how many methamphetamine lab cases he's been involved in? Yes, approximately 100 to 110. Now, has he testified as an expert in identifying methamphetamine? Yes. How about marijuana? Yes. Okay, so we'll do our read back. Excuse me. My allergies are bugging me today. All right. We need some rain here. We've had no winter here at all. It's kind of scary. It's been like I had to go pull out my summer clothes out of my bins and put away my sweaters because it's been like 85. I mean, it's kind of nice, but then on the other hand, it's like we're in a drought, you know? I think we've had one rainstorm this whole winter. Okay. And all the bees are out and everything's starting to bloom like as if it's spring, you know, and here we are in January. All right, so your word list is going to be expenses, utilities, overhead, increase, adjustment, exactly, which I write as XAL. Do you recall? I don't believe. Can you remember? I don't know. Okay, so it's going to be plaintiff. I'm going to do, somebody had suggested to me that I start high and then go low. Start with a higher speed and move my way down with things that I repeat. So I said, okay, I'll do that. So we'll go ahead and start at 160 and then I'll read it again 140 and then at 120. Okay, here we go. What did you say to the plaintiff and what did the plaintiff say to you? That the expenses had gone up and that some adjustment should be made. Were the utilities mentioned? Yes. What was said? That they were nearly double. In what time span? Over the 3 years. Did he give you the figures? Yes, he did. Can you remember what they were? No, not exactly. What did you tell the plaintiff? That I did not know why there was such a large increase. Did you have any written agreement with the plaintiff? I believe that it would be called a written agreement. Was that written agreement prepared by the plaintiff? I don't know. Do you have a copy of the written agreement that you have referred to? I don't know. I don't know whether I have a copy or not. In general, what does it say? It says that the utilities and other overhead expenses should be shared between the parties. Did it say anything else that you can recall? No, not that I recall. Do you recall any figures at all that were mentioned to you? I don't believe I do. Can you remember the date that the plaintiff told you the increase? No. All right, so let's do it again at 140. All right, here we go. What did you say to the plaintiff, and what did the plaintiff say to you? That the expenses had gone up and that some adjustment should be made. Were the utilities mentioned? Yes. What was said? That they were nearly double. In what time span? Over the 3 years. Did he give you the figures? Yes, he did. Can you remember what they were? No, not exactly. What did you tell the plaintiff? That I did not know why there was such a large increase. Did you have any written agreement with the plaintiff? I believe that it would be called a written agreement. Was that written agreement prepared by the plaintiff? I don't know. Do you have a copy of the written agreement that you have referred to? I don't know. I don't know whether I have a copy or not. In general, what does it say? It says that the utilities and other overhead expenses should be shared between the parties. Did it say anything else that you can recall? No, not that I recall. Do you recall any figures at all that were mentioned to you? I don't believe I do. Can you remember the date that the plaintiff told you the increase? No. Okay, so last take at 120. What did you say to the plaintiff, and what did the plaintiff say to you? That the expenses had gone up and that some adjustment should be made. Were the utilities mentioned? Yes. What was said? That they were nearly double. In what time span? Over the 3 years. Did he give you the figures? Yes, he did. Can you remember what they were? No, not exactly. What did you tell the plaintiff? That I did not know why there was such a large increase. Did you have any written agreement with the plaintiff? I believe that it could be called a written agreement. Was that written agreement prepared by the plaintiff? I don't know. Do you have a copy of the written agreement that you have referred to? I don't know. I don't know whether I have a copy or not. In general, what does it say? It says that the utilities and other overhead expenses should be shared between the parties. Did it say anything else that you can recall? No, not that I recall. Do you recall any figures at all that were mentioned to you? I don't believe I do. Can you remember the date that the plaintiff told you the increase? No. All right. So we'll read that back. How did you like starting with the faster and working our way down? Is that just as helpful?
I like it.
Good. Good.
Yeah, because, well, I mean, probably because I'm working on the higher speed. So it's kind of nice to hear the faster one first.
Yes. And that's kind of what this person told me. They said, well, if you start at the high speed, then you're kind of catering to them at first because you're starting at the high speed. And then for the ones that are pushing, it's kind of nice because it's going to go at a lower speed. So it's going to be familiar for the ones by the time we get down to the lower speed. So it totally makes sense,
Yeah. I think it's good for everybody.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I do too. Yeah. I like that suggestion. So, all right. Well, I'll take a Q&A, and if you want to take one, we'll just swap back and forth.
Sure.
Okay. If you want to take the first one, go for it.
Sure. Okay. Question, what did you say? Is that the first question?
Yep, that's
Okay.
it.
What did you say to the plaintiff, and what did the plaintiff say to you? Answer, that the expenses had gone up and that some adjustment should be made.
Awesome. Were the utilities mentioned? Answer, yes.
Question, what was said? Answer, that they were nearly double.
Question, in what time span? Answer, over the 3 years.
Question, did he give you the figures? Answer, yes, he did.
Question, can you remember what they were? Answer, no, not exactly.
Question, what did you tell the plaintiff? Answer, that I did not know why there was such a large increase.
Awesome. Question, did you have any written agreement with the plaintiff? Answer. Now this answer, if you wrote it at if you're reading back at 160 or 140, it's going to say, I believe that it would be called a written agreement, but I accidentally said could in the 120 take. So if you're reading back for 120, it will say, I believe that it could be called a written agreement. So.
Okay, question, was that written agreement prepared by the plaintiff? Answer, I don't know.
Awesome. Question, do you have a copy of the written agreement that you have referred to? Answer, I don't know. I don't know whether I have a copy or not.
Did you say you have referred to or you had, HAD?
Let's see. That you have?
Okay.
Is that what you have?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Yes. That you have.
Question, in general, what does it say? Answer, it says that the utilities and other overhead expenses should be shared between the parties.
Awesome. Question. Did it say anything else that you can recall? Answer, no, not that I recall.
Question, do you recall any figures at all that were mentioned to you? Answer, I don't believe I do.
Question, can you remember the date that the plaintiff told you the increase? Answer, no. So I have a question for you. Do you phrase or not in that sentence? I don't know whether I have a copy or not. I just out of curiosity, I just wondered if you do.
I did phrase it.
Okay. I don't
Yeah.
usually do that, but I looked at it and I'm like, well, why don't I phrase that or not? It doesn't conflict with anything.
Yeah, I do. ORN.
Yeah. OR final N.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a good one. I don't know why. And do you phrase let's see here. What was the other one? Oh, that you can. THAU final K.
Where's that one? I don't think I do.
Let's see. That was toward the end, the question that said, did it say anything else that you can recall?
Oh, let me see. No,
No? Okay.
I just do that and then you can. I
Okay.
could though.
Yeah, I like to phrase that one. It comes up a lot when more than you think.
I mean, some at this speed now, personally for me, sometimes I don't phrase because I I'm like right on top of you.
Yeah,
So if I were pushing, I might phrase
yeah,
that, but
that's
sometimes I
awesome.
don't phrase things that I normally would,
Yeah, no, and that's perfectly fine. If you're right on top of the speaker, you might as well write it out so it just, for sure that I mean, it's just easier to not make a mistake.
just because I don't know where you're going
Yeah.
sometimes,
Mhm.
too. So I'm just
Yes.
like,
So by
just
the
hit it.
time I'm on that, you've already written that, and then you're
Yeah.
waiting yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense. That makes sense. All right. Well, great job. Are you going to be in class this evening? Can you come this evening?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes, I
good.
will be.
Good. Awesome. Yay. That is
I
awesome. All
need
right.
I need the I need the practice.
Yes.
I need the 225 testimony practice.
Yes. I'll make sure and pull a variety so you get it, I'll pull literary too because I know that's going to literary and excuse me in the Q&A.
Yeah, I've actually been practicing with my aunt because she's I mean she's been reporting for forever, but she decided she wants to get her CRR. She's done real-time reporting, but she's doesn't have her CRR,
She wants to get her
and she
license.
decided she wants to get it. So we've been like practicing together, and it's crazy that I'm even sitting in the same room doing the same dictation with her, like
Isn't that amazing?
it's
Like it's
crazy.
surreal, huh?
It's very surreal. It's
Like,
crazy.
wow. So really the only thing holding you back is a piece of paper. I mean, really you're writing the same speed.
Yeah, and we did read back together, and I mean, I don't know, something just has clicked in the last month, and it's exciting, but I'm definitely still a little inconsistent, so just need a lot of practice at the higher speeds with the
Yeah.
testimony. And if you have any tips on what might help me, I'll take you know any advice I can get. So
I would just say, like when I was at the end speeds and I really wanted to qualify, I just put in as much time as I could. I mean, I remember people leaving the school in the afternoon and I would just stay. So, and I mean, I know you're doing online, so I would just say, as much as you possibly can be on your machine, even though you're going to have some days where you're going to be tired, and you might feel like, oh, this is a waste because I'm writing terrible today, but it's not, you're still getting that practice in.
yeah,
And
that's
then,
yeah. I've kind of I told my husband yesterday, I'm like, I'm addicted to my machine, which is a
That's
good
good.
thing, that I'm in that place. It's like, if anything comes up like work wise and it takes away from my machine, I get like mad. I'm like, I don't want to do anything else with
Yeah,
this.
because you're so close.
I know, I know.
Yep.
So, and I've just been thinking positive thoughts, which makes such a huge difference.
Yes.
I mean,
Having,
I cannot stress it enough. If anyone else is listening to this, like, you have to be so, I can't believe what has happened since I've actually been journaling and like um writing my negative thoughts down and then like replacing them with a better thought and not
mhm.
letting the negative ones in. And I know that has something to do with why I've made such a huge leap just in the
That's,
last month. So,
that's right. That's so true. And having the confidence in yourself that, you can do this.
yeah.
It's
Cuz
really,
you can really beat yourself up,
mhm, mhm.
after
Yes,
a while, and it just doesn't do any good,
right.
it doesn't help you. So, anyways,
Yeah, it's such a huge mental gain, the whole thing, mentally. Like I always tell students, like, celebrate the small steps that you take. Cause so many times people beat themselves up. And then when they do something great, they're like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. And it's like, no, yes, it is a big deal, you know?
yeah, it's so important.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then
And
just go through anything that you write down that you're struggling with, just go through that, whatever that is.
mhm.
So
Yeah, so I was just thinking too, I won't keep you long, but
okay.
I think it's pretty cool that I started this journey with you as my theory teacher, and it's going to end with you.
I'm so excited.
I think that's so cool. I'm
That
like,
is
oh, I knew Jill was going to get me to the end. I knew
that's
it.
so awesome. Yeah, so you will be my first online theory student that will finish. You're going to be my first.
Really?
Yes, yes. Yep, online.
Wow.
Because I've had students, from
Yeah.
on ground, but not online. So, yes,
Yeah. I know. It was all online. It's crazy. So that's
amazing.
why I'm telling people about the theory thing, because it's like you can do it online. It's
Mhm.
very possible,
Yep.
especially if you get plugged in with people in the area who can mentor you and
Yes.
you can sit out with, and that's important. But
Yeah.
anyways, it's about to happen.
So excited for you. And do you know what you want to do? Like, do you want to do depots? Do you want to go to court? Do you want captioning? Like, do you have any idea?
I mean, I kind of want to do what my aunt does. She freelances, and the agency she works for does mostly depositions. I mean, they do court as well, which I'm open to doing either, but I am really intrigued by captioning too.
Yeah.
I've been reading about it, and I don't know. I don't
You'll
you
know
know,
when you start, when you sit out and when or you take a job, you're going to know like what you prefer.
yeah.
Because I know for me, I sat out in court, of course, and then I took one job in court, and then I sat out with depots, and I started working for an agency, and I knew I wanted to work for that agency. Like I just knew, or an agency, I just knew, I don't know. I just liked going to a different place every day, not the
Yeah.
same building, and, like a different, I don't know,
I
atmosphere every day.
I think that appeals to me as well. I love the flexibility of it.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, the agency out here I mean, they already are waiting for me. They're like
Yeah,
waiting for me.
I believe
So,
it.
and they've been helping me, like they sponsored me to go to my state convention and everything. They've been like helping me along the way. But anyways, they actually do have employees as well, so which is kind of rare for an agency. But so if I go that route, there would even be benefits and I don't know exactly how it works because, you know, I haven't talked to them about it, but I know they get a certain amount of pages guaranteed to them, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And they get the benefits as well. And
Mm-hmm.
if you use the software that they pick, they pay for it for you. So you don't have to pay for it. So there's a lot to think about. I mean, but
Yes.
there's it's just nice to know that they're already waiting for me.
Yes.
They're just like, keep us posted on your progress,
So,
keep us posted. We're, you know, there's jobs out
yes.
there.
Oh,
And
yeah. And it is nice
my
to just focus on one agency if you can. At first, I had to work for a few to get enough work, but that was, you know, in the 90s. But
Mhm.
then once I kind of proved myself and then I got hired on with one agency and I had enough work, it's just nice because you kind of get to know their format, you know what they expect, because every agency is a little different, you know. It's really amazing how everyone is, some are very relaxed, others are very, you know, formal. So,
Can I ask you, so because I'm from Southern California and there's a chance that I might move back um, someday after I get licensed, I guess. I'm going to take my CSR very soon after I get my
good,
RPR because
good.
I want to like get that out of the way if I can,
Yes.
just in case I do move back. But did you have to like, where did you live? Where did you live when you were?
Oh,
Because I'm just like my aunt when she worked out in California, she lived in Ventura County, but she commuted to LA like every time she would go on a job, and it just seemed like yuck.
yeah.
I mean, not that I'm a diva or anything, but I mean, she was in her car for like hours and hours every day. And I'm just thinking, is there work outside of downtown
Yes.
LA?
There is. There totally is. For me, at that time, when I first started reporting, I was living in Running Springs, which is Lake Arrow, in the middle of Lake Arrowhead and Big Bear. So no matter where I took a job, I had to drive down the hill. So most of my jobs were like Redlands, San Bernardino. I'd go to Palm Springs. I would even go as far as San Diego. And then we decided to move. Now I live in Marietta, which is Temecula area. And then I started taking jobs and I would go to LA sometimes. I mean, but my agencies would really try hard to, they try to put reporters in locations where they're not going to have to drive as far. So they really try hard. Or if you do go on a job to LA, they try to really make it worth your while. They know you're going to be there all day. It's, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't, I mean, right now there's so much work that like, okay, for instance, my best friend that works, she's a depot reporter, the one that Nora's going to sit out with. She lives in Yucaipa and she works for an agency in Riverside. So really all of her most of the time her jobs are Inland Empire, that's for the most part, that's where she's at. Now, once in a while, she said she'll go to LA, but she's a trooper, man. She gets on that subway, or not subway, but that train thing that takes, it's on the 10 freeway. She'll get on that and go all the way to LA and park her car. And that doesn't bother her, but I know what you're saying, but I don't think that you have to, you're not going to, you would not be going to LA all the time if you didn't want to,
So there's agencies that cover more than just
Yes.
LA. I mean, I figured
Yes.
there would be, but
Yes.
um,
There are
if
there's so
if
many
I
jobs
move,
now. Yes.
yeah, if I move, I would move because my family is in mostly Ventura County, so I'd
Okay.
probably be moving there, which is north of LA, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. So
And
you probably have all that area up there in the northern part.
because I just remember my aunt never working nearby when she worked. I don't know if it was because of the agency she worked
Maybe so.
for.
Maybe see, and that's another big thing. If the agency has contracts with attorneys that are mostly centered in LA, they're going to tell you that, like, hey, most of our work is in LA or San Diego.
Yeah.
So they're going to tell you. but the agency the main one that I went to work for, most of her contracts with attorneys were all in Inland Empire. Every once in a while she would say, oh, well, they want to have it down in LA or San Diego or Palm Springs. And I would have to, but I always felt like it was, it was worth me going, but
Yeah.
but no, it wasn't all that. I didn't do that very often. No.
Cause I just can't imagine doing that.
Yeah.
Like what she did.
Yeah.
And for like 22 years before she moved out here to Nashville, she was doing that commute. And it was like, I mean, obviously she wasn't out in the field every day, but she worked a lot. And,
now they will tell you, if you interview with several different agencies and you tell them I'm willing to go anywhere, they're probably going to send you to LA and the bigger cities more often because you're willing to do that. If you say, oh, I've got kids, or I really don't want to go past, they're going to say, okay, that's fine. But then you just may not get called as much. So then that just means you work for more agencies.
Yeah, that's true. I mean? That's true. Yeah.
But really,
I didn't think about that. I just don't want to come on as a new reporter and be like, here's my list of demands, no. Because I'm not like that. I will drive. I just don't want it to be like every time, because driving in traffic and trying to get somewhere on time.
Yes, you cannot be late. So, yeah, if your navigation says it's going to take an hour and a half, then you better leave 3 hours early because, I mean, you know what I mean? That would be horrible to get stuck and have to call your agency.
I couldn't. I told my husband, I'm like, I'm going to be leaving at 5 a.m. every time because I just can't even deal with the possibility of not being early because, you know, you got to be there early to set up and everything.
Yeah. So and then you got parking in LA and, there's always,
I know.
So
that was just one thing I was wondering about, because if I do move back, I don't want to live downtown, and it's like, where are the jobs is kind of what I was wondering. So anyways, I guess you have a good point, is if you do say I'm not willing to, you're just going to get less work and you have to spread yourself out to more agencies, I guess. I didn't really think about that. So,
and you can ask them too, like where, who are your contracts with? Like, where is most of your work? And they'll tell you, So, I had another friend that had she lived in the Hemet area, and the agency she worked for, most of the contracts were out Palm Springs. So she would go out that way because she'd take the back roads out there, and it worked for her, and she worked all the time. So I think you just have to ask, and you can't be afraid to ask them and say, hey, and they want to know because they want you to be happy, and there's plenty of people out there that will drive that don't care, they don't mind going that distance. So now, when did your aunt work in that area, in the Ventura area, or have to go to LA? When was that?
Oh, from the early 90s until she moved here in 2008. So,
Okay. Yeah. See now, and that's another thing. Now there's such a high demand now for reporters. I hate to say it, but now you can kind of pick and choose a little bit more because they are like you said, that agency already wants you to go to work for them, where before there was this, and that was before, like in the 90s, they didn't have CART and captioning. So, you either went to court or you did depo. So really you had to, if you didn't want to travel, you had to work for several different agencies, until you kind of got in with them. And then you became one of their main reporters. Like my girlfriend, she only wants expert. She doesn't want car accidents and workers' comp. She's just beyond that. So she only and she gets paid more. But then on the flip side, she also doesn't want to go to LA. So she doesn't go to, you know what I mean? Like you can pick and choose. And especially now because they are in such dire need of reporters. It doesn't, it's not like a diva thing. You just say, I don't feel comfortable going there, you know?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I guess I just always look at it like the senior reporters or the veteran reporters are the ones who have the right to be more choosy and the new ones kind of get, whatever they get. Maybe I don't know. I think maybe there is a little truth to that, but
See, and I mean, the
really,
agent, the one I ended up working for, I felt like they just took care of me so well. Like they never sent me on a job that, like they never put me on an expert witness until I was ready. You know what I mean? They didn't take me somewhere that it was going to be really hard to find, or, I mean, it was almost like I was shocked at how they almost held my hand. Like they wanted to make sure that I understood how everything worked. It was amazing. And that's why I chose to go to work for them, because they, you know,
are
they,
they still around?
yes, it's
Can-
younger, used to be younger and younger. It was two sisters, but now it's just younger reporting. And her name's Marion Younger, and she's the owner. She's centered in Riverside. And I love her. I mean, she's incredible. She just, so caring.
I
So
wonder if there are any agencies in Ventura County. I don't know if there are.
I bet there has to be, because Ventura County is so big, you
I
know?
know. I know. It just I'll look into it.
Yeah,
I'm
I
curious.
was going to say you should research it and just see.
Because I mean, obviously, if they're located in Ventura County, probably most of their work coming in is going to be in Ventura County. But my aunt always worked for agencies that were, centered in LA or
I was going to say, if
Century
they're centered
City.
in LA, they're going to be in LA. So maybe
Yeah.
she just never worked for an agency that was in Ventura County, like in that area. I'm going to look it up too, because now I want to know. I bet you anything that there's agencies there.
Maybe she looked into it. Maybe she just didn't like the kind of work that was available in Ventura County. I mean, I'm sure well, I don't know. I was going to say, I'm sure there's maybe like better work in LA than some smaller counties, but I don't know.
Yeah, you get like the high end attorneys, like with the big cases, I'm sure, you know.
Yeah, she did a lot of those, and that might be why she did it, because it was worth it. But
Mhm.
for me, just my personality, it's not worth it
Me
for the
too.
stress
Me
of
too.
the commute on a regular basis. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
anyways,
I know, I get it. I totally get it. That would stress me out, you know.
I know I'm just sometimes I'm glad I'm not the only one. Like I feel like maybe it's because I've been away from LA for so long. And now I've been here in Nashville where it's actually starting to get a little more crowded. But when I moved here, it was just so easy to get everywhere. And I was like, now I'm so used to that. The thought of moving, I want to move back because my family's in California, but it's like, I don't want to deal with that traffic.
Yeah. It is.
I can't, my heart, like, it palpitates. I'm like, and you get sick to your stomach.
I know, because we lived in Oregon for 6 years in Bend, and same thing. The freeway in Bend, the speed limit was 45 on the freeway. So
Huh.
you come back here, and if you go 70, you're going to get run over. Everybody's going
I,
at least 80.
I
You know,
know.
yeah, it is. It's so different.
Yeah. Well, anyways, I just wanted to pick your brain. Thank you
Yes.
for,
No, and I'll look it up too, because I want to. It'd be interesting to know. I know there's got to be agencies in Ventura County.
yeah, I'm really curious because that, honestly, the reason I was thinking about captioning is because I know there's a lot of captioning jobs that you can do from home. And I
Yeah.
was thinking, well, if I move back to California and I don't have to commute at all, that would be amazing. But
Yes.
I really don't mind driving as long as it's not like constant stress
Right.
every time I go out. So
Right.
um, I think I'd rather do deposition work than captioning if that factor, doesn't come into play where I'm just stressed out all the time because of the commute.
Right.
So,
Right.
but anyways, so.
Right. Exactly. Well, that's exciting though, that you possibly might move back.
I know. I'm not telling anyone here in Tennessee.
Yeah, no.
So I don't want anyone to know because it could affect,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
possible work that,
Yes.
or so, but I did tell my sisters back in California that we're looking to do it after I work for a little bit here.
Yeah.
And they're
They
so
all live in
excited.
Ventura County.
Hmm.
Oh,
Except for my parents. My parents live in La Quinta. They just moved there because my mom got a job out there. So
is that Palm Springs?
it's right next to Palm
Okay.
Springs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, we could even move there, but I don't know.
I was gonna say, yeah, if you want, you should check out I love where we live because it's kind of central to everything. We're Riverside County, but we're not. It's like a new area. Look up Marietta, Temecula. Temecula has all the wineries, but we're
It's
only.
just so beautiful, that whole area too. I love it.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It's really pretty. And then we're only like an hour from San Diego, so
Yeah.
that's it. I think we're 45 minutes away from Oceanside. So if you want to go to the beach, it's we usually go to San Diego way more than we do Orange County because the 91 is horrible.
Mm.
But
Yeah, we'll figure it out. I mean, the reason I was going to go to Ventura County is because my sisters have little ones, and
yeah,
that's part of the reason I want to be out there, is to kind of watch them grow up,
yes,
and
yes,
be near them. And
I get that.
my parents, they get out there whenever they can, but it's like a 3-hour drive for them. So,
Yeah,
but
my
we'll see.
my daughter lives in Cambria and she's going to move back she's a school teacher and she's moving back after the school year is out, and she's going to get a job down here because my son's going to have a baby, and same thing. She just wants to be, she's not married yet or anything. So she said, I just want to move back so I can be around the baby. And so I totally get that,
Yeah.
but,
So
wow, now has your family, were they involved at all in the fires and the floods, or not the floods, the landslides and all that?
no, I know the fire, like my sisters live in Moore Park, and
Okay.
that's somewhat close to where the fires were, and they had a lot of smoke, but they were too far. They were still far enough away from where it actually was happening.
Okay.
But they had friends who lost homes and stuff like that. So, it was close, but not exactly where my family
Okay.
is.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that was horrible, just seeing the devastation, and
I know.
and then it's just like one thing after another, with the mudslides. It's terrible.
I know it is. It's awful. I feel so bad for those people, Ugh.
It's like, because you guys got a rain, or they got a rain storm at that point. It's like you're waiting for rain, and then you finally get it, and then it's like,
and
look
then
what you
the
get.
house is sliding down the hills, and really we only got that one storm, so it wasn't that much. I mean, you know what I mean, it wasn't anything crazy, but because of all the fires and all the vegetation, you don't have anything to hold anything back, and it's just horrible. So it's like, yeah, we need more rain, but then I know those people are probably thinking, oh my gosh, I don't want rain right now.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. Well, all right. Well, it's so nice to talk to you, Catherine.
You too. Thank you for all your insight.
Oh, yeah.
It's so helpful.
You're welcome. Let me know if you have any other questions, and let me know if you find anything in Ventura County.
I will. It's fun that I'm even at this point where I'm even thinking this way. So it's kind of fun.
Awesome.
So,
and then real quick, does Tennessee have a state test?
No.
Okay.
No, I just, the RPR
okay.
gets me in.
Yeah.
So,
When we moved to Oregon, I wanted to go to work for an agency in Bend. There was just one agency in Bend. And I was asking her, I said, I have my, my license for California. And I said, what about the state test in Oregon? She said, oh, no, that you don't need that. Your California license is good. It's just amazing how some states don't even have, they don't even require you to have a license in their state. Or like I've heard the Washington state test is like so much easier than the California test. I think it's at 180 or something. It's a lot easier.
oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you need a license here, but the RPR
Mm-hmm.
it qualifies you to get your license. And then if you have your California license, it's reciprocal. So
Yeah.
you
Mm-hmm.
you can just move here and start working once you are licensed. It just changed though, not that long ago, because you didn't even need a license. Like
Isn't
I
that
think
crazy?
in like 2000, it changed in like 2010 here.
Yeah. I've
And I'm
had
thinking,
students join online who were working reporters in other states. I want to say Michigan, and they didn't even have a license, but they decided they wanted to get their license because they had heard, that someday it might change. But they were working reporters, and I'm thinking, and self-taught, and I would be so nervous to know I'm going to a job and I don't have my license.
I know my aunt was saying, like, the other day we were practicing, she's like, just imagine there were people in this state who probably were at a lower point than you're at now that would start working. And I was like, what do they do? I mean, how are you even, I mean, I can't,
I
it
know.
blows my mind. I
I
can't
know.
imagine. I would be, like you said, I would be so nervous.
I
And
know.
she was like, I think they just rely on their audio and then they clean everything up later. And I'm like, oy.
And that's a lot of work to have to do later, to go clean up all that and listen to audio. That's like doing the job double time,
I know.
you know?
Yeah. So at least they kind of got a little bit
Yeah.
more with it here. But I
Yeah.
know there are still some states, but I mean, I don't, I keep saying, like, yeah, I want to get my RPR and I want to get licensed, but I just want to be ready to work more than anything else. I want to feel confident
Mm-hmm.
and go out there and know, like, I got this.
Yeah.
I would do not want to go out there and be like drowning,
Right. Right. Well,
So
I used to listen to students at Sage. They would do the captioning once they were in 180, and I'd say, well, what happens if they're speaking faster than 180? And they said, oh, you just get the important words. And I just thought, that's just crazy to me, because we're taught to get word for word. And I don't know, to me, I would think that would create bad habits, because you can't do that, in a depot or in court, or even captioning. You have to get every word. So I don't know.
yeah, and when you're at 180, you're so close to the end anyway. It's like, might as well just put in that extra time and
Yes.
get up to speed.
Yep. And
So,
I would hear that from students, like, oh, it is creating bad habits, because now when I take a test, if I can't hang on, I just drop and keep going. And it's almost like subconsciously they're thinking, oh, but really, no, you can't do that. You've got to have everything, 97.5 accuracy. You've got to have every word. So
yeah.
I don't know. I'm surprised that these captioning or captioners don't have to have more than being in 180. Like, to me, that's crazy. Or who's to say somebody in 160 saying, oh, yeah, I'm in 180. I don't think they check. I mean, I think it's going to change someday, because somewhere down the line, I'm sure there's going to be a lawsuit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's just no way, that's going to fly. Something's going to
Yeah.
happen. So,
Yeah.
and they're paying for a service, and they're not, I think they're just in such high demand that they'll just take almost any student. Like, okay, we'll just figure it out. So,
Yeah. It's tempting because, you want to work. So you have that feeling like, I just want to work,
yeah,
get out there
yeah,
and do this skill that I'm learning. But it's like, be patient and
yeah,
then
yeah, be ready, be prepared.
yeah.
Yeah,
So,
right. So, all right, Catherine,
All
well,
right.
I'll see you this evening.
Okay, see you
All right,
then.
have a great day.
Okay, you too.
Bye.
Bye.